they're beyond help, okay? They're not going to watch this content. They don't really care. They just go to the gym to say they went to the gym. But assuming you're a dedicated, passionate lifter, are you not training hard inherently? Chest up, shoulders back. Welcome to Revival Fitness, everybody, your home for gains and brains. And today, boys and girls, we're going to talk about something that I've seen come up in numerous capacities over the past year or so, and probably even further back than that, on YouTube and in the lifting community in general. And that is the volume versus intensity debate. Now, before we start, let's do a quick back check. And the framing of these two training concepts seems to always be put as either or. And we're going to break down in this video the factors that contribute to both volume and intensity, the pros and cons of training high with each, and how they kind of ultimately interlace in your own training program. What's more important for strength gain, volume or intensity? Volume or intensity? What's the most important factor for hypertrophy? Which, by the way, I hate the word hypertrophy, even though that's my primary training goal. That's 4 syllables, hypertrophy. You could literally just say size. That's 1 syllable. Like, we're out here wasting breaths. And I know the guys are gonna come up, all the dorks.
Well, actually, there's technically a difference between hypertrophy and strength when it comes to volume and intensity.
I know, guys. All right. Quick thing I wanna get off my chest here. You guys probably can tell this by now, but I'm not one of these hardcore evidence-based or science-based channels.
Science is a liar sometimes.
I would say for sure that the methods I discuss are science-based, and they're certainly time-tested, but I like to have common sense and practical experience guide my philosophies. I am not one of these guys who is part of the PubMed army. Like, we have people now in fitness who are still in their newbie gains, offering coaching services on their Instagram. And I don't like to judge people based on looks alone, guys, I tell you that all the time, but these guys are spaghetti noodles offering coaching services for like bodybuilding training. That's where we're at. But they have a degree, they got a bachelor's or a master's, so they must be more intelligent, right? Deadlifting 225 with straps, talking about, I'm going to take my pre-programmed deload week. Are you out of your mind? I'm getting off topic here, but you get my point, right? A lot of these debates always go into the appeal to authority fallacy, and just because somebody has these credentials that they're automatically correct. That is not the case. But now let's jump into the volume versus intensity graph. This is a good breakdown of the two variables and how they are inversely related. So volume is how much cumulative work you do in the gym, sets, reps, total weight used. The concept of tonnage will also usually come into this conversation. It's how much work you do total in the gym, often measured over the span of a week. Now, intensity has 2 definitions. They're kind of related, but it's important to draw a distinction between them because they're not the same thing depending on who you talk to. The first definition of intensity is how close a weight is to your 1 rep max. So for example, if you can squat 405 and you're doing working sets with around 300, you're at about 75% of your 1 RM. That can be considered your intensity for that weight. But the other definition of intensity is how close you get to failure on a given set or a given exercise. And that is independent of weight. You can reach absolute failure with a 1 rep max, you can reach it with a 20 rep set or anything in between. Reaching failure when it comes to intensity in terms of failure can be achieved with any weight. The point is though, you got to the point where you could not do any more reps without some form of outside assistance. And this is the tricky thing about measuring intensity, because 1 RM is a tangible measurement of a percentage. But RIR, reps in reserve, or RPE, rate of perceived exertion, those are essentially how close you get to maximum failure. Those are more esoteric terms. There's no way to really quantify them, at least with hard numbers. So for example, take the 405 squat again. If you're squatting 405 pounds, you probably don't want to take your set all the way to failure. You probably don't want to do the same thing on a heavy bench press or a heavy deadlift, right? If you're doing heavy compound exercises that are very close to your top percentage of 1 rep max, the closer you get to failure, the more likely you are to overtrain, get injured, things like that. Now, of course, you can still safely fail these lifts with a spotter, with safety arms, with a squat rack, things like that. But still, failing these really heavy exercises, especially over and over, is going to tax your total body and your nervous system and your joints more than isolation style exercises. So generally speaking, when it comes to intensity and volume, as one goes up, the other is going to go down. You're not going to be able to hit a total 1 rep max grinder for multiple sets. And if you take the first set of an exercise to absolute failure, like grueling failure, needing help from a spotter, you're more than likely not going to be able to replicate that strength across multiple sets. And if you also limit yourself in terms of RPE or RIR, if you keep yourself kind of in that mid-range, like you're not going to total failure, you can stop with a rep or two left in the tank, you're also going to be able to do more total volume because you're not reaching absolute exertion. And if you'd like to test this for yourself, go pull a maximum deadlift and try to do it for 3 to 5 sets. That's not going to be fun. Outside of a powerlifting competition, there's really no need to ever do this. So with that said, here are essentially the 2 main schools of thought in this debate. School number 1, and this one is more popular, I tend to agree with this one generally, it's that volume is the primary driver of muscle growth, therefore getting in more volume is more important than going to peak intensity. And this generally means going in the 8 to 12 rep range, the more moderate rep range, or for some exercises, namely the isolation style movements, going up to 15 to 20 or even something like 25 reps per set. And this has definitely changed over the past 5 or so years I've been watching fitness content, but bodybuilders and powerlifters alike seem to agree on the concept of volume now. Because bodybuilders nowadays do tons of volume. A lot of them would do what we call junk volume. We'll talk about that later on. But a lot of them do so much volume that it's not even necessary. But powerlifters today even do the same thing a lot of the time because they realize they cannot get a lot of volume, or at least sufficient amount of volume to build more muscle in with the big 3 power lifts. It can become very hard, especially the stronger you get, to get in 5 sets of 10 with squats and deadlifts and heavy overhead presses, things like that, right? Getting into more dumbbell training, machine training, single leg stuff for the lower body, things of that nature. Doing that for volume, I've been preaching this for months, guys, is far easier for most people than doing the heavy compound lifts. But before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, it's the algorithm. Regardless of experience level, I would bet that the overwhelming majority of serious lifters, no matter the goal, we're doing at least 10 sets per muscle group per week. And a good anecdotal example of volume training being effective is calisthenics. You guys saw over last summer during the main lockdown, I was doing nothing close to peak intensity. I couldn't. I was restrained to push-ups, pull-ups, dips, ab work, things like that. I still got gains last summer because I could do so much volume with minimal fatigue due to the calisthenics. So just because you can't hit peak intensity does not mean you cannot get results. Now, is your strength overall going to suffer? Undoubtedly, yes. But you can still get hypertrophy gains and still get muscle definition without going to peak intensity. Now, on the topic of peak intensity, the argument there is commonly that you have to really shock the muscles and really push yourself past your normal limits, training to failure, hitting close to that 1 rep maximum to really spur growth. One of the most popular examples of this in the powerlifting realm is Bulgarian training. Essentially there, you're going to max out 6 days a week with very little other volume. And people have done this system and they report good gains in strength when doing it. You're going to ingrain the movement pattern, you get used to those lifts. So for something like powerlifting, maxing out frequently, or even something like conjugate training where you max out at least 1 time a week, I think 2 times a week, upper and lower body, something like that has very practical carryover to maximum strength because your nervous system is always primed to be lifting heavy. And in terms of bodybuilding, a common style that used to be employed for high intensity was called HIT. High intensity training, not to be confused with high intensity interval training, HIIT, just HIT, or also called heavy duty. This was made popular in the 80s by, I think, Mike Mentzer or some other guy with a mustache. But basically, this style of training was geared toward absolute intensity with very low volume. And a lot of the guys in the 80s era of bodybuilding swore by this. Now, this has become much less popular in recent years, given the advent of new research and techniques and things like that. Volume is now accepted as the main driver of muscle growth, assuming you're doing progressive overload, of course. Because people like to play dumb like, well, if you're not progressively overloading, it's like, who is not progressively overloading? That's another video, but that's always been very weird to me, is if people who are serious are not progressing in some capacity. We know the commercial gym schmucks who come in and do the same weight for 3 years. Yeah, they're not going to progress, but they're not going to watch this content either. We're talking about serious lifters. So high intensity training has really fallen off the wayside, but here's an example from an article I found of Mike Mentzer's hypothetical back routine for high intensity training. There are 2 to 3 exercises here for the back. That's it. And you're doing 1 to 2 peak sets with high intensity, right? So that requires a training partner. You're gonna do forced reps, drop sets, stripping the weight down, controlled negatives, things like that. All those kind of classic bodybuilding techniques to fatigue yourself in a short time frame. And that is essentially high intensity training, at least in the old school bodybuilding style. But aside from looking good in a video and on a camera, it doesn't really hold much weight anymore. Even if you take yourself to absolute failure right off the bat, really exhausting your muscles, if you do as prescribed these programs, you're only spending, what, 20 to 30 minutes in the gym? You can and should do more than that. Even if you go balls to the wall, insane intensity on your first couple sets, if you can still do more sets or a few more exercises, why would you not do that? You're going to be able to hit more angles, different muscle fibers, isolate weak points better when you're able to add more volume to your routine. And the biggest thing too in terms of strength development, even if you're not into powerlifting, if you take all of your sets to absolute failure, especially right off the bat, you're going to tank your potential strength development. There is nothing that affects strength more than exhausting yourself with other exercises before going into your main strength-focused exercise. You can see this philosophy play out in gyms even today, guys. Because guys come in and do what? On their chest day. They do the pec deck, cable flies, partner-assisted dips. They do all this kind of high-volume pump work, and then they'll do the bench press. Then they complain, oh man, my bench press is plateaued and stalling. It's like, yeah, dude, you're exhausting your muscles before you go into the bench press. Of course you're going to plateau. So if you really want to focus on strength too, something like this high-intensity, beyond failure training style is going to be totally counterproductive for you. But with that being said, there is a case to be made for pushing yourself to failure on the smaller movements, especially for things like arms, shoulders, abs, calves, those kind of smaller muscles that can be stubborn for people. There is a case to be made for doing drop sets and doing high intensity techniques if possible. And this is why I think the volume versus intensity debate ultimately is stupid. Because if you're a smart trainee, why are you not doing both? A good training plan and a smart lifter are going to include volume and intensity in varying capacities in their program in accordance with their current circumstances. Volume and intensity are a spectrum. It's not like it's just either or on a seesaw. And something else to consider too, frequency, which is like the third major variable here, which affects both your intensity and your volume. Frequency is often ignored in these debates altogether, which is totally dumb because frequency affects everything you do in the gym. If you're in the gym 6 days a week, like we mentioned with Bulgarian training, your overall volume is going to have to be lower. Or if you do a ton of volume 6 days a week, you're going to be so exhausted that you're not going to be able to hit a sufficient intensity to get results from the volume you do. So these factors are all going to change based on your current goals, what you're training for, fatigue management, injuries, also your diet, right? If you're bulking, gaining mass, eating in a calorie surplus, you're inherently going to be able to handle more volume and potentially more intensity than if you're eating at maintenance calories or especially in a deficit. And as we talked about earlier, this is where the concept of junk volume comes into play, because like I said, a lot of professional bodybuilders especially, and they're clueless fans, they come in and are in the gym for 3-4 hours at a time to get the pump and to keep the pump. That is counterproductive. Assuming you're smart about this stuff, you're going to have a program that has a sufficient amount of volume, but not excessive into junk volume. And that's another thing too. If you're training genuinely hard with sufficient intensity, getting on that bleeding edge of failure, you're not going to have the energy to do junk volume. You're going to be too exhausted to even do it. And that leads into the final point I want to make here. Who really is not training that intensely? Again, besides the commercial gym schmucks who come in and do the treadmill watching cable news and they do their machine with 50 pounds for 5 straight years, besides those people, they're beyond help. Okay, they're not going to watch this content. They don't really care. They just go to the gym to say they went to the gym. But assuming you're a dedicated, passionate lifter, are you not training hard inherently? Like, is that not an automatic response to going to the gym? Even when I was a clueless beginner in the gym, guys, 150 pounds soaking wet, I still intuitively took almost every set to failure. It's just very natural. Like, if you genuinely like training and have a goal you're striving for, I think it's very natural to train close to or hitting failure. Now, like I said, there are certain times and certain exercises and scenarios where that's not ideal. You're going to have to program your intensity during certain points of your training cycle. But as a collective, especially for your assistance and accessory work, for the stuff at the end of the workout, the pump work too for bodybuilding, are you not automatically going close to or hitting failure? Like, I cannot think of a time in the gym, guys, where I stop a set where I have 5 reps in reserve, 3 reps in reserve. I am always going to the bleeding edge of failure. I just naturally do that. Most people who are dedicated lifters and really passionate about the gym, they have to be told not to do high frequency, high intensity, and high volume at the same time. That's one of the biggest beginner mistakes I always talk about. These kids who come in and do everything balls to the wall, tons of exercises, always grinding through reps. People have to be told a lot of the time not to go too intense for prolonged periods. Especially if you're genetically gifted and very strong, you want to max out all the time. And a lot of times coaches have to tell their athletes or their students, you need to not max out all the time. It's the same in the gym too. If you train with all your boys and you guys mindlessly just do everything 100% intensity, you probably should find a trainer who's like, yo, calm down. Let's program this out in a more sufficient manner. But the point is, who is not training that hard? The people who clamor on about high intensity seem to have this thought process that people who aren't training to absolute failure don't actually train hard. And that's not the case. I think I recall Dr. Mike one time, it was him versus Greg, right, in that one debate. But basically the assumption is that just because you're not training to absolute failure does not mean that you're not training hard, and that's not the case. Now, I have heard Dr. Mike say things like begin your mesocycles at 4 reps in reserve, things like that. That seems a little bit high to me. But you guys have to keep in mind too, Dr. Mike is an advanced lifter who's been lifting for longer than a lot of us have been alive. Okay, I've seen clips of him overhead pressing like 275 for 8, clean off the collarbone, bent over rowing like 300 plus pounds for reps. Like, guys who are very strong and very advanced and experienced, they need more frequent deloads, more frequent lowering of intensity and volume than somebody who's newer. But the thing is, a lot of these newer guys watch the advanced guys talk about it, then they're like, okay, I'm going to deload now every 4 weeks as a total novice. Then you're not training hard enough. If you're doing everything 2 to 3 reps in reserve, you're probably not training extremely hard. But again, most people don't fall into that category. But ultimately, guys, volume versus intensity is a spectrum. One goes up, the other goes down a little bit, but you can apply them both in your training intelligently and practically if you know what you're doing. So this entire debate of like, oh, the intensity's the answer, volume's the answer, you need to do both. If your intensity is not sufficient, you're not going to grow. If your volume's not sufficient, you're going to grow at a much slower rate than you could. That's what I'm saying. But this has been it, guys. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Tell me what you want to see next. Give me some suggestions, and I will catch you next time.